You're probably wondering why I am live right now. As I said, on the days that I do go live, if I see any news articles that are worthy of reading out and getting people's opinions on, I will do that. In a couple of hours' time, maybe 2.5 hours' time, I will be live again with a Doctor Who panel, and we will have Streck and we will have the Rabbi, and we will hopefully have a lot more guests to join us tonight. So don't forget to join us in a couple of hours' time for that as well. So let's get straight into this. So we have a Digital Spy article here, and the headline is "Think Doctor Who is getting too political. You've not been paying attention, and perhaps it's not the politics that are winding people up." And this article is by Rachel Charlton Daly, and she published this article on the 13th of January, obviously, 2020. So let's get straight into this article and see what is with this article. I found the headline actually very interesting, so I decided I would go and do it. So let's see what this is about. It's probably caught your attention that the world is on fire. Temperatures are rising. The polar ice caps are melting. Blah 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 blah. President Trump is threatening a third world war. Fuck you. Not to mention the vast parts of Australia that are literally burning to the ground. One show that isn't afraid to shy away from the big issues is Doctor Who, but Doctor Who's a sci-fi show and shouldn't be dealing with these issues. We should actually have a show on climate change, and we should have a show that actually deals with these issues, not Doctor Who. But let's go anyway. Let's continue this article. I'm already not liking this article. Right. Fans of the show were thrilled when it returned, though some were apprehensive. Jodie Whittaker's fourth series received mixed reviews, with a lot of criticism for the groundbreaking decision to have the 13th Doctor played by a woman. Ah, shut up. According to some, the show is now too PC, too preachy, too concerned with ramming an agenda down our throats. But if some viewers already thought the show was leaning too far to the left before, this week's episode really angered them. In Orphan 55, we saw the Doctor take her fam. A doctor and her fam take a much-needed break to the vacation resort, which soon turned sinister. Terrifying monsters, the dregs, began attacking the spa and killing off guests. The twist was that the planet was in fact Earth, a Planet of the Apes ripoff, and the scary dregs were the people left behind who couldn't afford to leave the planet when the rich were evacuated. Well, that sounds about right. The episode served as an impassioned and desperate plea to halt the destruction of our planet. Responses to the episode were indignant and outraged, with many shouting that the show has become unrecognizable and that it is far too political now, that the lefties were in charge. They say this is like it's a new thing for the show to have its finger on the political and social pulse, but that just isn't true. Since the show was returned in 2004, she doesn't even actually. The show returned in 2005. You feckin' plonk. There have been many episodes concerning British and global politics, or with social and political messages. Engaging with the real world is definitely not something exclusive to 13. No, but the difference is, Rachel, you clown, like most of your media gobshites that write this same crap, is you don't understand the difference between the way they did the episodes back then to the way they do them now. They didn't ram the messages down their throat like they're doing now, and they didn't actually use every single episode as a platform. Previous showrunner Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies weren't ones to shy away from speaking up about issues close to their hearts, so it only makes sense that the real issues would feed through the show like an invisible thread. Yeah, like an invisible thread, you feckin' plonk. You said it there. But Chris Chibnall doesn't use an invisible thread. He uses a bloody steam truck. No, steam train. He bleeding feckin' runs everything over. Doesn't give a crap. The right word in the right broadcast, repeated often enough, can destabilise an economy, invent an enemy, change a vote. That line from the Ninth Doctor's story, The Long Game, is supposed to be about a world ruled by reality, but it was a line, you bleeding idiot. I don't think you get it. The whole thing was a lecture, right? He didn't go and lecture us, Christopher Eccleston or David Tennant. He didn't lecture their audience. Fucking idiots. Do you know what? Let me see. The 10th Doctor was very much a pacifist, still recovering from what he did in the Time War, determined to be better. His message that guns solve nothing and that we should extend peace to new species, not shoot them down. Well, in fairness, the Doctor hasn't really liked guns at all, so I don't know what you're trying to say there. In turn left and indeed midnight, the show addressed an anti-immigration sentiment that was starting to seep into UK politics when the rest of Europe shut its doors to the government. What do you mean in midnight? Where was the political agenda in midnight? I know there was one in the bit in turn left, all right, but where is she going with the midnight one? Have I missed something there? When the rest of Europe shut its doors, the government started sending immigrants off to labour camps. In a heartbreaking scene, Donna's grandfather Will bids farewell to an immigrant friend his age and tells Donna that's what they called him the last time. Isn't it funny though that she's only actually picking out lines, right? As she said, invisible threads, not hammering us over the head with the message. But yeah, she kind of contradicts herself in this whole article, because Chris Chibnall actually just, as I said, hits us with a hammer across the head, and it's right there in front of your face, and you're being bashed across the head with it. In the 12th Doctor's episode, Oxygen, we're thrown into a world where everything is capitalized so much that you have to pay to breathe. If this isn't a social message, we don't know what is. So what are you trying to tell us, Rachel, that one day that the government might actually charge us all for air? Well, I have been saying that for years, but that is absolutely just ridiculous. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a Doctor Who fan. Do you know what? I hate these media journalists to say that they're Doctor Who fans. And I think Gary actually exposed one. He actually showed one that wrote an article and then went through their page, their Twitter account, to find that there was actually no Doctor Who posts whatsoever. These people claim to support the show and follow the show, and there's actually nothing that indicates that they're actually fans of the show. When this evidence is offered, all the fans are quick to demonize the revival, to claim that the old original series would never have been special snowflake lefty, but they're wrong too. The third Doctor, the course of Paladon, centers around the nation's entry into the Galactic Federation. Yeah, but it's the way they did it again. If Chibnall was to do something like that, it'd be Russia against bleeding America or something, and he'd actually deal with the politics. You do it within the confines of the bloody show that you're ahead of, which is a sci-fi show, so you do it in a sci-fi context, you bleeding clown. In another story from 1973, yes. In another story, the third Doctor story from 1973, Joe rants about pollution and how cheap chemicals and petrol will destroy the planet. She doesn't even know the name of the episode because she's a plank. The seventh Doctor serial Battlefield is a warning against nuclear weapons and rushing into war without thinking of the consequences. Again, it's in the context of the show, you fucking plank. This is why people let me see our bio, right? Let me see our bio. This is why people like her shouldn't be writing articles, right? and when it comes to the male journalists as well that write for this show, they're all in their mid-20s, right? What would they know? Seriously though, what would they know? Because they're journalists, somehow they're experts. They haven't got a clue. You haven't got a clue. And then she updates herself because she says an earlier version of this article referred to voting to join the EU, not membership of the European Community as it was in 1975. So you couldn't even do the proper research before you actually did the article and actually put out the article properly. Okay, we get you, Rachel. Rachel, listen, don't write anymore for Digital Spy. You clearly need to educate yourself on Doctor Who because you're clearly a clown. To be quite honest with you, that's what you are. You're a clown. You haven't got a clue. It's absolutely ridiculous the way these people write. And Rotten Tomatoes, the dirty bunch of idiots that they are, little scummy, little feckin' cheating idiots, right? Getting rid of people's reviews and claiming that they're bots when they're clearly not bots and they're people putting real fans putting real reviews. But you won't leave them on, won't you? Not well. You've bumped up the old audience score a little bit as well. Bunch of I'll tell you, dirty tactics, dirty games are happening all over the place, and I hate it. Now here's one by Cosmic while we're on. And as I said, later on tonight I'll be on with Ballstreck and the rabbi. I did get I think I got a message from the rabbi. Hold on, I just want to. He's just checking what time. Oh, Ted is not happy. Ted's just that they're having his shower now, and he's not happy. He's not happy. So Cosmic book news, and this is the headline here. I sorry, I just couldn't read the rest of that article from Rachel. There was only like a couple of paragraphs left, small paragraphs. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to read that from someone that clearly needs to be educated on the show. Seriously, that she didn't even know the episode. The episode in question was The Green Death, you plonk, when Joe. I have that episode there. It's actually quite a good episode. But you see, the difference is they told both sides of the story there. You know, they gave both views. And they didn't hammer us over the head either. They said, people are responsible. We are all responsible for the planet. But Doctor Who is not the show to be doing all of this on. Right, let's read this article here from Cosmic Book News. So, Doctor Who Season 12. Rotten Tomatoes worst of the series, and this is from Matt McClone, if I'm saying that right. And this article was published on the 14th of January and 2020, and it was at 7:15. And before we start, I have a £2 super chat from Badwolf66. He says, Noel, have a drink on me, Noel. You need one right now. Jesus. I know. I just hate ridiculous journalists. I really do. The bad news continues as Doctor Who Season 12 Rotten Tomatoes audience score is the worst of the entire series. With 689 fan reviews presently accounted for, the Doctor Who Season 12 Rotten Tomatoes audience score comes in at the worst at 8%. Season 11, which saw the debut of Jodie Whittaker as the female Time Lord, come in a bit better, but is still considered rotten with a low 21%. Season 10, starring Peter Capaldi, fares a lot better with a fresh Rotten Tomatoes audience score of 68%. Likewise, Season 9 comes in at a fresh 82%. Check out Doctor Who Rotten Tomatoes audience score and reactions below. The ratings for the season 12 also aren't good, as nearly 1 million viewers have stopped watching live. Fans aren't happy Fans aren't happy. Current Doctor Who season from showrunner Chris Chibnall is the headline. This used to be one of my go-to series to relax and enjoy some fun sci-fi, but unfortunately, this season was the proverbial nail in the coffin. I thought I would stick around until the show becomes enjoyable again, but I am sad to say that it is at present unwatchable. It is a shame to say goodbye to to a favorite series, but at least it is unrecognizable to the point that nothing of seasons 11 and 12 feels like canon. Posted one Rotten Tomato user. Right now, this is obviously an article that's being written by them, but they put some of the comments from the fans. So here's another one. Doctor Who was one of our favorite shows growing up. It was creative, exciting, and fun. Today, I have to say the show is unwatchable and downright boring. Whomever is writing this garbage needs to be fired and replaced. This show needs to be rebooted. Advise a Rotten Tomato user. Doctor Who has been degraded to the point of no return. Just end the series. Apologise to the great writers and actors that came before you and try again in 10 years. Another review states, I loved Doctor Who years ago. The show's writing quality has tanked in the last 2 years. It just doesn't have the same feel or quality as past years offered another disappointed fan. Now, the Doctor Who Rotten Tomatoes audience scores is as follows according to this article. Season 12 was at 8%. Season 11, 21%. Season 10, 68%. Season 9, 82%. Season 8, 79%. Season 7, 83%. Season 6 has no score. Season 5 has 92%. Season 4 has 98%. Season 3 has no score. Season 2 has a 91%. And a season 1 has 87%. And when you look at season 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 5, and say 7 and 9 are all up in the highs, all up in the 90s and 80s there. And then we've got season 11 on a pathetic 21%. And we've got season 12 currently, right now, on 8%. Oh my God. Just how bad it is. This is just shows how bad it is. And it's so sad to see a show that I have watched for over 35 years being absolutely pissed on. That is absolutely mad. And you know what? Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, have been deleting reviews, right? So we probably will never know. And I know lots of people say, oh, Rotten Tomatoes is shit. Don't believe it. Right. You're right. To a certain extent, when it comes to the audience score, we will probably never truly believe because you'll have J-Bots on one side that will just give it a 5 out of 5 just for no apparent reason. And then you'll have the Not My Doctor side that will actually just vote it down, even though they haven't watched, which I think that is wrong, to be quite honest with you. You know, if you haven't watched the episode, I don't think you should be able to vote, to be quite honest. But there you go. But they have taken people's reviews down, and that's wrong. And it's absolutely ridiculous. It is. They're taking them down. They're not hiding the fact. Um, I actually did a video. I actually went into Rotten Tomatoes and I actually seen it and I reported it. And I actually did a video a couple of days back when it actually all happened. And yeah, it was gas. It just completely disappeared. And then when it reappeared again, and then they tried to say it crashed, and it didn't crash because there's still people being able to read stuff, and if you're still able to read stuff, it didn't crash. But here's the thing. There's another article here as well. Can I let me see? Can I quickly get this one done? So this is by Engadget, and it says Doctor Who tried to tackle big tech and failed. Big tech is bad. Now here's an unrelated alien invasion. And this article is by David Cooper, and it was actually dropped on the 14th of this month, obviously, 2020. I like saying 2020. Feels good saying 2020. Doctor Who has something to say since its first episode aired in 1963, often reflecting the anxieties of its creators from the environment through to the looming dystopia. The show's newest executive producer, Chris Chibnall, clearly has concerns about the state of technology today. Unfortunately, he struggled to properly articulate them, often coming across as more amateurish than insightful. Spyfall, a two-part episode that opens the revived series' 12th season, has a tech company CEO as one of its villains. Daniel Barton is the CEO of VOR, and on the nose name for a company that represents Google and Facebook mashed together. Towards the end of the show, Barton reveals during a keynote that he is and his alien allies plan to invade the world with VOR devices. The first issue of this presentation, Barton's keynote, is meant to represent all the tech company keynotes we're so familiar with. But the staging and setup is so unfamiliar that it doesn't read as a keynote for the beat, and the scene loses any power because it's not anchored in things we already know. This is from someone that obviously goes to these things and is actually saying, Chris Chibnall, you're actually writing this crap because you actually don't understand what goes on at these tech convention things, and you've totally got it wrong, and it loses its actual realness. I get you. See, I'll put it in plain English for you, because I need it in plain English too. Right, let's go. So we've all seen what a tech company keynotes look like. They are often mainstream news reports today and a new product announcement. In a curiosity search on YouTube, I found videos of Apple launches that had more than 50 million views. The formula isn't hard. Get a good-looking, casually dressed techie type on theater stage. They'll awkwardly wander the stage, presenting a slide deck on large screen or screens behind them. The fact that 30 Rock was mocking this format in 2009 shows how embedded it is in the public consciousness. Doctor Who, however, managed to create a presentation that looks nothing like what we expect. It was wrong, from weird island staging and the lighting through to the vibe that it was being shot in an unused TV studio between show recordings. It even managed to get the wrong dialogue. In the real world, if a tech company CEO wants to declare the human race extinct, they at least frame it through the lens of Silicon Valley's positivity. Wow. If Mark Zuckerberg said that Facebook would begin grinding the bones of the dead of the cheap power source, he'd do so with a smile on his face. We're so pumped, he'd begin to tell you all about how we're distributing the old ways of doing things. We're on the cusp of such an exciting opportunity to help cut our emissions and improve land use in the United States, etc. Wow. This guy definitely doesn't like our Chibnall. The other problem is deeper, and it concerns how the story itself was framed, with VOR as some vehicle for an alien invasion. In Barton's speech, he says he's able to establish this invasion because we're blindly handing over our personal data to his company. We gave you pieces of plastic and circuitry and games, he said. You handed us total access to your lives. He goes on to talk about gaining access to our credit card numbers and us putting cameras and microphones in our homes. You think this building to some point about You think this is building to some point about surveillance capitalism, except it's actually some ploy to turn human DNA into a storage system which sees everybody's phones, zap them as a precursor to an invasion, rather than being any sort of comment on how we live our lives or beholden to tech companies. It's just words that are totally disconnected from what happens next. I won't comment on the lousy signs behind such a move. See, that's a guy, right, that doesn't know anything about signs and knows not to say anything, but will bring it, will actually put it across from his point of view, and I actually like that. I do. He's not trying to, the science is lousy for anybody that is a Doctor Who fan. We all know that's bullshit, but let's continue anyway. Chibnall's anxieties are valid, but he and his writers often struggle to express them in a meaningful way. That means that sometimes the script arguments wind up making the opposite point to the one it's trying to say. Take last season's Kerblam, written by Pete Mitoig, in which a planet suffers crippling unemployment unless you're lucky enough to work for the episode episode's retailer. Sorry, I just lost track there. Kerblam is essentially Space Amazon, and one that reflects the real-life horror stories that have emerged from employees at its warehouses. But at the end of the episode, the conclusion is that Space Amazon shouldn't just automate things, undignified, horrible jobs. Instead, it should hire more people to do horrible work, instead of saying that that's preferable to unemployment. Doctor Who's modus operandi. Why the crap do you use English people have to use weird words? Have always been destroyed, but have always been. See, when you use all these words, what trying to prove that you're fancy or something. Plain English. Doctor Who's modus operandi has always been to destroy bad systems, not allow the status quo to continue. Imagine if Chibnall had connected Spyfall's villain to the plot more organically rather than just saying so. A creature that invades your mind via a smartphone, which can only do once it's understood your innermost thoughts, provided by surveillance capitalism is a neat idea. And then you can comment both on how our phones kidnap our attention and how vast unregulated data collection is, and bad things against our best interests, better than two-dimensional capital E evil plan that comes out of nowhere. I agree. And I think we've got one last paragraph of this. Yes, we do. The show has typically avoided dealing with technology and its after effects. Narratively, you don't need a smartphone to keep you amused if you're running around alien planets trying to solve problems. Since its revival, the show has had people making calls across space and time, but rarely has the show tackled tech head on. But the world has changed since 2005, and there is now a need to reflect on how we are all the more engaged with technology. But episodes like this and ham-fisted jokes about Wi-Fi being down aren't good ways of expressing that. Whoa. Okay. And I'd actually have to agree. I mean, again, it just goes to show you Chris Chibnall just doesn't have a brain. As I said, he's like the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. He just doesn't have a brain. He has hay between his head, sawdust. He just hasn't got a clue. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. You know what? It's about time. It's about time that the media have started to turn on this show. They should have done it last year, right? They should have been with the fans that told them what was going on. They ignored us because they all wanted to lick the BBC's buttholes because they all want to work for the BBC and have the prestige of being the reporter to say what I mean and to get all the exclusive interviews. That's what it's all about. Not one reporter that has picked up for this show last year is being true to themselves. They know that this series, right, and this era overall has been a complete joke. It's at least this year some have decided to stop licking BBC's ass and to actually come out and report on what's really happening with these episodes. Now, the thing about it is that some of them will go at it from a different angle and a different point of view. I don't care. It keeps Doctor Who in the spotlight. It keeps the negative press going. Right now, I know people say it doesn't matter whether the press is negative or positive. All press is good press. Not this time. This is bad press for BBC. BBC don't need this, especially after the ratings gone and Rotten Tomatoes trying to cover up their tracks by. And I don't buy for 1 second that they actually crashed. They didn't crash because Rotten Tomatoes, they have plenty. It didn't crash, right? They're telling me they crashed. No, not a lie. It didn't crash. He's fiddled with the numbers. Actually, he's made it worse the first time because when he's fiddled with the numbers, he's actually reduced the audience score because, the audience score was a lot higher before he's actually even touched it. And he didn't just touch it a first time. He's went at it 2 or 3 times, right? He's changed the Rotten Tomatoes score on Doctor Who Season 12, Series 12, more than once, right? Once is okay and it is inexcusable, right? We could say, okay, yeah, it did crash. But 2 or 3 times, 4 times, no, right? So Rotten Tomatoes, yes, the audience score, people will say can't be trusted. But let's be honest, the critics score can, because it's critics that are actually writing in the reviews there. And if you look at it, the critics score is down from last year. So that's all we have to look at. And I've checked on IMDb, is it? I keep getting that confused. Yeah. Well, I've checked on that. The last time I checked, Orphan 55 was on a 4.8. It is the worst episode. The worst episode. Worst rated episode of the New Who era. Right? Worst episode of the New Who era. Right? And everybody thought It Takes You Away was bad and Kerblam is bad. Now, I know some people out there do like this episode. And fair play to you if you like rubbish. Right? I'm being honest. Fair play to you if you like rubbish. That's up to you. But I expect more from this show. I expect a better quality from this show. Right? And we're not getting it. Now, listen, folks. I'm going to head off now because I've got to get ready, a few bits and pieces done. But I will be live. I will be live later on again, as I said, in a couple of hours' time. There will be myself, Ballstreck, the Rabbi, and we will have a few more guests. I see Blue Bonnet is in the chat. So hopefully when I start the stream, Blue Bonnet and her husband, if they're both free, will pop in as well. And a couple of other people as well. I texted yesterday and a couple of days ago. They just said send them the link, see if they could pop in. So we're hoping to have a good few guests come on tonight. So don't forget to join me for that. We should be on around, I'd say around 9:30, 10 o'clock my time, which is now, it's 10 to 8 now. So we're about an hour and a half away, right? And I'll talk to you then. Right, listen, folks, enjoy. Talk just for the panel. Talk just for the panel in an hour and a half's time. And Bad Wolf 66, thank you for the £2 super chat. I'll talk to you all later on and talk to you all in the chat. See you soon.